back, crime sceners. In this video, we're going to discuss something that we haven't discussed before in all this time. What do we know about Nanette's daughter, Janet? As usual, the disclaimer, you can give that a quick read. Before we start talking about Janet though, I did a whole video recently and decided not to post it, but I still wanted to give it a quick rundown to see what other people think. It was about the pantyhose packet that was sitting on the bedside table by the door in the back bedroom, which we believe to be Craig's, but could be Greg's, because I've never gotten any real confirmation on that, so it really could be either boy's room. But I've already done a video where I said that a viewer had emailed me and said that the packet looked empty, and I agree that it definitely does look like it is an empty packet, and we pondered how it could have got there. Was Nanette taking it to the bin and stopped in to talk to someone in that room? Why did she put it down? Because if you're just standing there talking to someone for a minute, you wouldn't need to put it down. It seems like she must have put it down because she needed both hands to do something in that room. And this pantyhose packet might be nothing to do with any of this, but I just have this feeling that it is a piece of the puzzle. I could be wrong, but I cannot shake that feeling. But the reason I'm talking about it was that someone wrote to me and questioned whether the pantyhose packet was in that room because the person who slept there was wearing them. They thought it might be possible that Nanette had come home and caught them, and maybe a fight or argument ensued, which led to someone getting very angry and stabbing Nanette. This would not seem plausible to me in this day and age because nobody cares if a guy's wearing pantyhose. But back in the 80s, it would have been a bigger deal. I did go into all the reasons in that video that I made, but I didn't post. But the reason I didn't post it was because it did occur to me that why would he be trying on the pantyhose knowing that Nanette was due home soon? And now that I've said that, maybe he wanted to be caught. Maybe he was looking for a way to show her who he really was, but it all went pear-shaped. Maybe he thought she'd be accepting and maybe she wasn't. But then if I think that he wanted to get caught, and it all went pear-shaped and she ended up dead, then I also have to assume that it wasn't premeditated, and I absolutely think it was, because then you would have to ignore all the vandalism. But then again, I have always assumed the murder was premeditated because of the vandalism. But what if the vandalism was to scare her and there was no intention to murder her, but it did just happen on the spur of the moment anyway? And was the vandalism a way to make Nanette need somebody? Anytime my ex started thinking that I was going to leave, he would create some kind of drama that he would then fix so that I would feel like I needed him around. Like my tire would go flat, or something else would happen to my car that he would then fix, or sometimes he'd break something around the house. It was all just to make him seem like he was valuable to me. Now, did someone think that Nanette was about to cut him from her life? Was the vandalism a chance to play the helpful hero? Washing the paint off, changing the tyres, driving down to rescue her when she was stranded on the side of the road. So what do you guys think? I'd love to hear your comments. It's another theory to throw onto the pile at any rate. But speaking of knowing when she was coming home, why did she come home to an empty house? To my knowledge, there has not been any confirmation that there was a phone call between Nanette and Craig that day. I don't know if police checked to see if it was true. I haven't had any confirmation from people who work there to say they saw or heard Nanette on the phone with Craig. All we have for sure right now is Craig saying that it happened, that Nanette told him that everything was going to be okay now. He also said in that phone call that Nanette said she was going out with the girls that night and that she was being picked up at 6. We know that's not true because Margot gave a timeline of their girls' night out at the inquest, and we also know it's not true because they didn't rock up to Nanette's house at 6. Because if they had, they would have been there right when all this stuff was happening. They came down later when Nanette never showed up to Heather's house, which was where she was actually supposed to be. Now, I've already made a video about Craig saying that Nanette said everything was going to be okay, and how it seems preposterous to me that Nanette would say that. She still had weapons by the door. She's still organising for a police escort to come by on the Monday. She's still getting people to follow her home from the office on Friday afternoon. To say that she thought everything was going to be okay seems absolutely ludicrous to me. But once again, I did give Craig the benefit of the doubt and said that maybe she was trying to make him feel better. He is her son after all, and maybe she was trying to make it appear like everything was okay so that he wouldn't be scared. But then I got so many comments saying that Nanette told her boys everything and they knew everything that was going on. So I have to think that she wouldn't have said that for that reason. They did know about the vandalism and the police escorts and the weapons by the door and the police driving by, and she did tell them everything. She told Greg all about that guy she met at the nightclub, and even her own father told the newspaper that she told the boys everything. So then that got me thinking, why would he say that if it wasn't true? And why would he say that Nanette was being picked up at 6 when we know that isn't true either? So is it because they apparently left her alone on that Friday night? The police made it really clear that she was not to be left alone in that house. Yet she apparently came home to an empty house on the day she died. If we take Craig at his word and he was at a friend's house, and we take Greg at his word and he was at the neighbour's, why did they leave right before Nanette was due to come home? Greg I could give a pass to, because when he left, Craig was still in the house. So he wasn't leaving Nanette to come home to an empty house. But why did Craig leave to go to a friend's house knowing that Nanette was about to come home and there'd be no one there? He said he was going to a drive-in. Well, drive-ins don't start until about 9 during daylight savings. He could have been home to be there when Nanette got home and then left when Greg got home at 6. Imagine if he had. He still would have made it to the movie and Nanette would probably still be alive. Is that why he said that Nanette said she thought it was going to be okay now? Is he using it as an excuse so people don't wonder why he would leave his mother alone? Is it so he can say, well, Mum said everything was going to be okay and she was only going to be in the house for 45 minutes alone anyway, so I didn't think it would be a big deal? So this is what I want to know from all of you. If you knew that police didn't want your mum to be alone in the house and she told you she thinks it's going to be okay now, would you leave her to come home to an empty house and go out with your friends? Or would you have stayed to make sure she was definitely okay? Keeping in mind that this was an 18-year-old, so try to think of when you were 18. What would you have done? Love to hear your comments. Let me know. And now on to an important piece of Nanette's life that we've barely mentioned in all these videos, and that is the baby she gave birth to and had adopted when she was 18. Janet. Craig says in the podcast that he met her 2 years after Nanette's death. But in the Mamamia article, he says it was 5 years, in 1989. And Janet also says it was 1989. So it was probably 1989. Doesn't mean Craig was lying in the podcast. It was 30 years later, so I don't really expect him to remember like the time frame or how many years it was. But what I did find weird is some of the other comments he made. He said, I know that Nanette was actually looking for her when she was alive. How did he know this? It is possible that Nanette's mother told him that when she told him he had a sister, but is it likely? This was the woman who made Nanette give her baby up for adoption and not marry the baby's father. This was the woman who, even after the boys had connected with Janet, still did not have Janet's name in her obituary as a granddaughter. If Nanette were looking for Janet, what do you think is the likelihood that she would have told her mother that she was looking? This seems to have been one of the biggest secrets to ever secret. When I first started looking into Nanette's case, it didn't seem like she had a lot of people in her life. But after coming this far, Nanette actually had quite a big family and lots more friends and co-workers than we originally thought. She had 3 siblings and at least 1 cousin and 1 aunt that I know of. These people would have all known that Nanette had given birth and given the child away, and apparently none of them let it slip in the 18 years of Craig's life or the 16 years of Greg's. And that doesn't include if she told anyone else. She might have told a friend, co-worker, her husband Max. Her siblings may have told their children. Schoolmates would have probably known about it. And when I say told their kids, it's quite possible it could have come up in discussion and the kids could have overheard. I mean, that's how I found out about most of my family stuff, eavesdropping on the adults. I find it hard to believe that these boys never heard about Janet until 5 years after the murder. And why did the grandmother wait until 5 years later? That's another question. Craig also said on the podcast, and I know that Nanette sometimes seemed troubled, like she was thinking about something, and you'd be talking to her, and she's probably thinking about Janet. And I thought, what a weird thing to say. For starters, if you didn't know about Janet until 5 years after your mother's death, there's no way you'd be talking to her and seeing that she seemed to be thinking about something and thinking it was about Janet. So that must have meant that he'd be talking to her and she seemed troubled, and he didn't think to ask her what was troubling her? No, he didn't. Or else he wouldn't have been thinking it was about Janet years later. I wonder if he told police she'd been looking troubled, because everyone said Nanette didn't have an enemy in the world, but she was obviously looking troubled about something. But what if Nanette did find Janet? Craig apparently found out about Janet in 1989, and Janet said Craig found her in 1989. So it didn't take long to locate her, did it? Surely if he could find her so quickly, then Nanette could have as well. And you can't even use technology as an excuse because it was still the 1980s when Craig found her. A viewer wrote to me and mentioned that they were wondering if that's why the will was written so hastily. They said that maybe she had found Janet and Janet wasn't very welcoming, so Nanette wanted to make sure that Craig and Greg got the house and all her stuff if anything happened to her. Janet herself said she was angry, that she didn't get along with the new family, that they were abusive towards her. And I was told that Janet lives in Queensland, which just happens to be where Nanette was going after she wrote the will. Now, I don't have any actual confirmation that Janet lives in Queensland, but in the Mamma Mia article, she said that when she found out she was estranged from my adopted family, if they had told me about Nanette, I would have had a chance to meet her as I only grew up a few suburbs away. She said she grew up a few suburbs away, not that she lived a few suburbs away. Is that why Nanette was going to Queensland? Is that why she quickly wrote that will before she left? Was she worried something was going to happen to her because she knew Janet was angry at her? Of course, I'm not saying any of this is true or that it happened. I'm not suggesting Janet has anything to do with this at all. It's just more speculation, of course, all along with the other speculation that we just keep doing. Even though we have wondered if it was a woman, considering there was no sexual assault and the vandalism seemed like a chick thing to do, and that Nanette would probably have let a woman in, which would explain why there were no signs of breaking and entering. But even if it was a woman, I'm not saying that that woman was Janet or that she's involved in any way. Once again, it's all speculation. All the information that I've just listed in this video has been people emailing me and also my thoughts to their theories and their comments as well. So once again, all speculation like it always is. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments.